Okay, so welcome to the first installment of building a framework from scratch. So I'm a massive fan of MAST. It's a framework I use on most of my websites. But there are things about MAST that I don't like, and they sort of, I guess, fall into lots of different buckets of why, but I thought, why not build on top of MAST and make a framework that I can use all of the time, but also others can use all of the time. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to try and document me on this journey of taking the clonable from MAST and changing it into a framework that I can use, but everyone else can use, and clone themselves. I've spoken to Corey a while ago now and told him about this journey that I was going to go on, and he's given me full permission to do this. So yeah, I'm just going to dive in. Some of this will be really boring. There's not going to be much whiz bang, but hopefully as I go along it will add some value, and you can see inside the thought process of making a new framework. So first step is to clone MAST. So I've got one ready to go here in Webflow. I'm just going to clone that into my account. So you can see it's got 2,902 clones already, which is pretty amazing. So I'm going to create a site for that. I'm going to call it the very original Sailboat, and I'm going to call it Sailboat build. So this is the build from Sailboat, and what I'm going to do, I've played around already with some of the concepts, obviously throughout client sites that I've done, but this is going to be basically the rebuild using a lot of the approaches I've taken. So dive into the first element that I'm not a massive fan of is the variables. So let's look at the variables. How do we deal with variables in MAST? So let's have a look here. Make my pull me over there. So here, for example, we have a H1, and that H1 has some typography variables. So we have a font, which is the font. We have the weight, which is a variable. We have a size, which is font. We have height, which is line, and we have color, which is text. It looks white, but I'm not entirely sure what that is. So this is the first bit that annoys me about the way it's set up. Now that there's restrictions on variables, and that might change in the future, but at the moment the UI from Webflow doesn't seem to be able to cope with this approach that Corey has taken with MAST. So what I'm going to do is have a look in here. We go, okay, so this font, I can, without moving my mouse because I don't want to disrupt anything, this font is type H1, font type, all fonts primary something. So what I'm going to do is go and have a look at this font. Okay, so where is it? Annoyingly, it doesn't take me to where it is, but so I think it was H1. Where is it? Type body, type eyebrow, type H1, and that's why it's called font. So what it's showing is font, but I don't know. And then it's got font size LG, MD, so these are all font sizes. But because we know in here, the size, we can't see that. Although that is large, if we change it to medium, we can't see that happening in there because it's not easy to read. Now, obviously, the reason this happens is because it means that if we want to change the value of the variable, then it will propagate through everything. So the argument is you don't really need to know what's going on here. But what I find is that it annoys me, and I can't get my head around the initial setup there. So the first thing I'm going to do is going to delete all these font variables. So how do I do that? Let's go and find them. In fact, if I go, can I do it by font? Yeah, that's not the best way to do it. I'm just going to go through and find out where these fonts, here we go, body font. Okay, so type all fonts. Now, kind of like primary font, but I'm probably going to use it directly rather than sort of subcontract it to these. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to type in secondary font, and we're just going to have a secondary font available as well. But here I'm just going to delete all of these. So they've got font sizes, but I find that controlling that is quite difficult. So okay, and then eyebrow, yep, delete all these. So anything that is sort of a secondary level of the font that that sort of uses values that exist elsewhere. You know, 5.5 exists elsewhere as a variable. So I'm gonna go down here now. We'll go on to what I prefer as a font after this, but this first instance, the laborious task of deleting all these. Now, what you will be thinking is, when I'm deleting all these, all the variables in MAST now, at least in the typography, are going to have deleted variables shown. So there's going to be lots of that yellow error message, and I'll have to go through and unlink. But that's okay, because I'm going to put a new sort of scale in that I find works a little bit better, and is a little bit more flexible. Now, I'll probably have to do this in a new video, because this one is, I promise to take only 5 minutes per video, but we're up to 7 minutes already, so I'll probably do that in the next video. So for this one, if you want to tune out now, you can, because what I'm going to be doing is just deleting them all. I could do this in private and skip to this, but I'm going to stick with it. Here's another one, type paragraph 1.5. Well, it is 1.5, but then it's 1.3. So again, I spoke to Corey about this. I was like, how can 1.5 equal 1.3? Well, I kind of get the gist of it, but again, it's something that I'm not a massive fan of. It's in one of my projects, actually, I changed the naming of the sizing to pixels, and that converted into rems, especially for fonts, and that helped the team, the marketing team, who were used to working in pixels, but I explained to them the benefit of REMs, and so 88 pixels would be the name, and then it would be the REM version of that. So yeah, so that's all done. So in the next video, what I'm going to do is put in my new font typography scale, the way I do it, and then link it all up as well.